Welcome, everyone. So National Small Business Week is a very exciting time at Microsoft with Microsoft Connections investing so much into the National Small Business Week. So welcome, and I really appreciate it. I hope you're going to enjoy our content today. So who am I? I'm Jim Gast, and I'm the CEO of SpliceNet here in Cincinnati, Ohio. I've given you lots of good contact information on me right there. If you don't know who I am, there's my LinkedIn address. I'd love it if you would connect with me on LinkedIn. So why should you listen to me? You know, a lot of people say, who is this guy? What right does he have to talk about this stuff? And what I like to say is, first, I'm a 25-year veteran in law firm technology and cybersecurity. And when I say that, what I'd like you to know about my company is SpliceNet. We specialize with law firms. Now, I know many of you may not be with law firms, and that's okay. But what I want you to understand is that law firms have very unique security needs, and Office 365 provides a lot of new features that these law firms can tap into. So if a law firm is employing these security techniques, certainly they're useful for you as well. I happen to speak and write on cybersecurity and Office 365, so I really enjoy speaking. But one of the things about my company, SpliceNet, is that we've performed more Office 365 migrations for law firms in Southwest Ohio than any other company. And we're within the top 100 of Office 365 partners in the Microsoft's Heartland region, which includes Ohio, Kentucky, Tennessee, and Michigan. So we really know our stuff, and I really think it's important that you pay attention to the content here because I think you'll learn a lot from it. So I'd like to start off by kind of giving you a couple of quick stories, right? A couple of quick scenarios. So I call this the sly fox. So somebody in your office is thinking about leaving, and while they're doing this, and I'm not saying that they're doing this right now, and I'm not saying it's your staff in particular, but these are situations we've seen in the past, and so they copy all the stuff that they want, your customer information, to a USB drive, right? And behind the scenes, you really just have no idea they're doing it. They're real slick about it. They use USB sticks, and they do it through a number of means. But at the end of the day, they leave, and you have no idea, and then you disable their account, right? But what about the stuff that they took? What can we do about that? I mean, what abilities do we have with those documents that they've taken already off-site? The fact of the matter is a lot of damage can be done, and I've seen a lot of damage be done to various businesses when people steal information, especially customer information, especially if they want to compete. So what do you do, right? This is an interesting scenario that a lot of businesses should be challenging themselves with and understanding how they would handle. So I've got an answer for that one here in a few minutes. Office 365 does have some abilities for you here. The other one is a little bit similar, but different in a certain way, and I'll explain. So you've got another staff member, they're just a great staff member. They work really hard. They've been with you for a long time, and they say, hey, Mr. Business Owner, I'd love to work from home. This would be great. I could get so much done, right? And you're saying, well, I'm not really sure. We'll talk to our IT guy. But behind the scenes, they go ahead and set up a OneDrive sync to their home computer, and you have no idea. And so OneDrive, the documents they've got in their OneDrive and on their computer have been synchronizing back and forth between the office and their home computer and the OneDrive cloud. And so they worked that way for years, and then one day they decide to leave your company, right? And again, you have no idea, right? But you leave their PC intact because you're going to replace them. And so 6 months later, somebody comes in and they see that they've been using OneDrive or Dropbox, and that whole time, that data, customer information, whatever it might be, has been synchronizing still to that person's house. Now, you may or may not have a good relationship with that departed employee, but the fact of the matter is that information was leaked, and who knows what it could have been. It could have been, if you're a doctor's office, it could have been, healthcare information. If you're some kind of, you deal with financial information, could have been credit cards, could have been social security numbers, who knows? But the fact of the matter is you're surprised at 6 months later that this person was still synchronizing stuff to their home computer or maybe even to a mobile phone, and you had no idea about it. So again, Microsoft Office 365 has got some things that can help you with that, and we're going to go ahead and talk about them. But kind of from a high level, These are just a couple of examples of things that I've dealt with myself in the past. And so today I want to empower you to prevent similar events from happening in your businesses, right? And jeopardizing the future of your business and your livelihood and your employees too. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain how Office 365, I'm going to tell you what it is and what Office 365 can do to help in these scenarios. And then ultimately towards the end, you're going to see how Office 365 can keep these types of events from happening again. So let's get right to it. What I'd like you to know is, a lot of people really don't completely understand Office 365. From a high level, this is Office 365 from a very, very high level. This infographic keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. They've just recently added some things that aren't even on this infographic, not to mention that they've added features within each one of these slices of the pie. But a lot of people think that Office 365 is just a cloud version of Microsoft Office, and it's really not. So if you've got Office 365, you have some familiarity with what it is. If you don't, you have a lot of misconceptions is what we're finding out there. So I want to reiterate, it's not just an online version of Excel, Word, and PowerPoint, and Outlook, and so on and so forth. Although those are available, Office 365 is so much more than that. It is a brand name, as you can see here, this infographic. It is a bunch of different products, okay? Some of them are accessible by the desktop. Some of them are accessible by website. So it's more than just new version of Office or cloud-based email. It is, however, also a place for your documents. So for many of you, if you're keeping documents on a server, you can now keep them in the Microsoft Office 365 cloud instead. And as well, we all know about email in Office 365. So it's also a location with a lot of these applications where your team can collaborate with each other. So isn't it really important if this is what Office 365 is and we're utilizing it and we're keeping a whole bunch of information in it, isn't it really important that we lock that down and secure it, right? And there's a lot of reasons that we want to do that. So let's talk about some of the security features right away of Office 365. These are some of the things that are really popular with people that they like to implement, and many people don't really know that much about them. So obviously, one of the simplest things is a password policy. How often do our passwords change? How complex are the passwords? This is an option that you have to implement in Office 365. A lot of firms that I walk into and businesses I walk into, they have it so that their Office 365 passwords never, ever expire. I really kind of feel that's a bad practice. And they also have it so that the end users can use just about any password that they want. So they don't really have to be that complex. So password policies are really important. So I'm going to go through this list real quick. Sharing and security rights in OneDrive and SharePoint. OneDrive and SharePoint are the place where you store documents primarily in Office 365. We want to make sure that people can get to what they want to get, that need to get to, but not the things that they can't get to. So you've got to set up these rights. Now, when I say sharing and security, that's within your organization and also external to your organization, because through OneDrive and SharePoint, you can share documents out. So information rights management is one of these things, we call it IRM, that not a lot of people are familiar with. So what happens to a document once you email it to somebody? Well, in most cases, in most businesses, people can do anything they want with the document that you just sent them. They can forward it on to someone else. They can edit it. They can, copy it and use it for themselves, so on and so forth. But with Microsoft Office 365 IRM, it makes it so that when I send that document, the person that gets it only has so many rights to it, and I dictate what they have rights to and how it's utilized. So if I don't want them to forward it on to somebody, they can't. If I don't want them to print it, they can't. If I don't want them to copy something out of it, they can't. And when I'm done with letting them have access to it, I can easily cut them off through Office 365. Very, very powerful tool. So think about a template or something in that first example, contract document that person might have stolen. Well, once I cut their account off, they can no longer use that. Data loss prevention, DLP, really popular topic today. What happens when an end user is using Office 365 and they want to email out some information within that email or within an attached document? Well, they could send credit card information, they could send healthcare information, They can get social security numbers and so on and so forth. What DLP does is it protects that information from getting outside of your organization. So if you send an email, DLP is a service that runs on the email service side of Office 365 that can prevent by policy that social security number going out to somebody or a credit card number. We don't want to send that information out by email, so we want to stop that in its tracks, and we use things like DLP policies. And then multi-factor authentication, another real popular one, actually one of the easiest things to set up in Office 365. And what this is the ability for you to log in your Office 365, but you can either get a text message or they have an app for a smartphone that gives you a certain PIN number that changes every minute. So when you want to log in, you put your username and password, and then you have to put that PIN in at the same time. And there's a number of mechanisms to get it. So why is that important, right? Well, if somebody hacks us and they get our password, username and password, well, they're not going to get our multi-factor authentication PIN because it changes every minute, and only we have the ability to see that, whether it's through text messaging, what's called a one-time passcode, or whether it's through the app on the smartphone. Another thing in Office 365 is device management. So somebody loses their phone. What do? They've got, on my smartphone, I've got all kinds of Office 365 apps. I've got Word, Excel, I've got my email, I've got, my Office 365 applications are on my phone. So what happens in my phone if I lose it or leave it in a taxi or leave it at lunch? What do? Well, with Office 365, I have the ability to wipe that device so that no one else can get to it. I also can enforce policies that say, hey, my staff, they can have this information on there, but they've got to have a passcode for their phone to unlock it. Many people are having these today, but a lot of people still aren't. It's not being enforced. So I have the ability to force them to do things if they're going to have my company's data, and if they lose their phone or something happens, maybe they leave and they're terminated, I can also wipe my data off of there. Now everybody knows about mail filtering, spam filtering, right? That's a pretty popular thing. That's built into Office 365. Its engine's fantastic. It also does malware filtering. But Safe Links, a lot of people don't know about Safe Links in Office 365. And what Safe Links does is it lets emails come into an organization that might have a web link in them. And then that web link is inspected to make sure that it is a safe web link, that it goes to a website that is safe for you as the end user. Or maybe we filter it and say not inappropriate content either. So maybe we don't want links from, say, gambling websites to come in or worse, right? So Safe Links is a feature built into Office 365 that we administer on the cloud side. And that makes it so that we're pretty comfortable knowing that the links that are coming into our email are safe. And it also says so in the email. So when you get the email. So let's kind of take a look at where some of this stuff is modified in Office 365. One thing I'd like to add before I do, though, this is not a full list. These are just some of the more popular, more easy and efficient things to set up in Office 365 from a security perspective. But here's some of the places that you go in Office 365 to get these things set up. What I want to add is that you need to be an admin in your Office 365 to do most security features, okay? And there are different levels of administrators. So if you're not an admin in your Office 365, you're probably not going to see some of these things. But it's just as important that you know that they exist so that you can talk to your IT department or your outsourced IT guys so they can actually implement some of these things for you. So in Office 365, in those blue squares, you see the little white waffle is what they call it in Office 365. So that's called the waffle, and then once you drop the waffle down in Office 365, if you're an administrator, you have an admin tile that you can get to. And this is the waffle under the admin center. On the left-hand side, what you'll see is that security and privacy is one of the sections that you should check out if you're an admin. If you're not, you probably want to review this with your IT department if you're in charge of security in your organization or it's one of your responsibilities. So security and privacy is one of these places. Then on the far right-hand side, you've got what we call the admin centers for all the various products built into Office 365. You remember the great big infograph, the wheel of products in Office 365? So for the products that you actually have in your Office 365 plan, each one of these is an admin center for each one of these products, because every one of them have security features in and of themselves. So I've just taken one of them, for example, the Exchange Admin Center, and I've just taken a screenshot of it, and you can see it in the middle here. And here are some of the security features that we can enable for Exchange purposes, right? Now, this is going to be different than those in SharePoint, and it's going to be different than those in OneDrive, and so on and so forth. But I just wanted to kind of give you an idea of some of the things that have security features in Office 365. So Exchange is a really big one. I mean, we don't want that. We don't want anybody breaking into our email. Malware and all kinds of bad things come through email today. So the Exchange Admin Center is one of the most popular places to start locking things down. And we'll talk about maybe where you can start here in a few minutes. Now, there's one big thing I wanted to show you in Office 365. With Microsoft, I will tell you they spend over $1 billion a year on security alone for Office 365. That's right. It's $1 billion with a B dollars in Office 365 security. They've created this thing in every Office 365 tenant. That's what they call your Office 365 online. They've created something called the Security and Compliance Center. And again, you get to it through one of the menus in your Admin Center. And so it gives you an overview and places to do different things. So you see data loss prevention, you see data government and threat management, so on and so forth. And then you see on the right-hand side, which is a customizable area, where it gives you a bunch of tips on how to do different things. So in this one, for example, you see a tip for threat management. You can look at enhanced DLP information and so on and so forth. So this is a place to investigate and research in your Office 365 to kind of understand more about what you can do in your Office 365. Every tenant is a little bit different depending on the product that you have. So I don't want to give you the impression that yours is going to look exactly like this, but certainly it would look similar. Now, I'll hop to a new product that everybody's talking about today. It's included in every subscription of Office 365. It's called Secure Score. So what is Secure Score? It is a way for you to rate your own security within Office 365. So what you can do is you can set it using the slider here at the bottom. You can say, you know what, I think our score should be, within this area. What would happen if we did that, right? Using the slider at the bottom. And then you can see where you currently exist, and then you have things that you can click on right away and say, what do I do? If I'm currently at risk for an account breach or a data exfiltration, right? What should I do in that situation? And you click on these links, and it would take you right there. Then you can drill down to each one of these things. This is a picture of what's called the queue. So when you're looking at your score, you can see, this is what I'm being graded on right now, but there's of 344 other items. So these are the 25 action items that get me to a higher score. Notice the first one is enable MFA for all users. That's multi-factor authentication, what I talked about earlier. So if I click on that enable multi-factor authentication, it gives me an example of what it is, and it tells me more about. You should enable it, and here's why you should enable it, and this is what we found. That's the screen in the middle. So you can click on that Learn More. And when you click on that Learn More, then you go into the place where you can actually enable the multi-factor authentication. So as you can see here, we've enabled a multi-factor authentication for my organization, and I can do a mass update. And once I do, then within 24 hours, my score would automatically go up because it's a buffered score. So I want you to understand that any one of these things have that prescriptive guidance and actionable item at the very end. How do you get to some of these admin centers and some of these things? Well, here's a quick link on it, and so portal.office365/admin portal. That's the admin center that you do go through to administer Office 365 if you're an administrator. Within that, you can actually go to the Security and Compliance Center at protection.office.com. Or go through your admin center. Secure Score doesn't have a direct link anywhere in Office 365, so you got to remember it's securescore.office.com. And of course, a lot of people like to know about the Exchange Admin Center, so it's outlook.office365.com/ECP. Again, you need to be an administrator to get to these things. Here's a big one. Everybody wants to know everything that Office 365 can do from a security perspective, and this poster, if you will, is really detailed and really big. I couldn't even make it so that you could read everything on it, so I wanted to show it here. The link is so long that I actually had to create a bit.ly link for it, so that's bit.ly/O, not a zero, O365 SecCap. So if you go to that link, it'll take you to this page on Office 365.